friends? It's that time again. We are inside of my car, and it is time to talk about the League of Legends World Championships 2024 Swiss stage. Round 4, the first two quarterfinals qualifications matches of the round happened today, and we're going to hop right into it. Of course, the solid 2-0 predictions. We'll get to the second games in a second. Respect to Fly getting that game, and we'll get into all that later. So yeah, let's start it off with the first series, DK versus TES. We're just going to go through it. Game 1, we start, with a nice lane swap, and TES just gets some kills, punishes Kingan's greed in the bot lane there. It's pretty even. This game, up to about 10 minutes, is 2-2. DK definitely had the better scaling comp, had the Smolder, but I like the Xin Zhao from Tian, Tian the GOAT, we all know. And about a minute later, TS was up 1k just from some nice macro plays. They really started making better moves. And then they got a turret plus 4 kills in the bottom lane at 14 minutes. Complete blowout, just complete TP location diff in that fight, as I recall. Top was crazy far ahead. Tian is full engaging under towers and getting knocked back and still living. And they're just up 5k, and I really thought the Xin was a good driving factor. DK just couldn't get anything to go their way, and Jaculov looked incredible on the Ashe, absolutely one of the best AD carries on the planet right now, and he's showing why. DK's jungler died over a red buff and gave up the Baron for some reason at 21 minutes, and then at 27 minutes, TS is just full control. It was really, even the casters brought it up, the only hopes for DK was that it was a best of 3 and that they had Smolder on their team. TS ends up getting their soul denied, unfortunate for them, but they're still getting a 2-1 fight there, and then TS just grabs the Baron, and that's just the end of the game. Jax goes split pushing, and TS just engages straight into the base, grabs 2 inhibs at 32 minutes, and the game pretty much ends after that point. Pretty cut and dry, I won't lie. It was a pretty standard game from TS. They looked strong. And yeah, DK just kind of was never really in that game, it felt like. They just looked a little bit outclassed. So yeah, game 2. TS gave Yone to Showmaker. I thought I was going to have a stroke in my chair at my workplace, which would have been really awkward in front of my coworkers. But yeah, the TS comp was a way better team fighting comp. Absolutely is the case no matter what. There are 4 melee champions into Aurora and Skarner, and it showed. That was an awesome game to watch between those two champions. Moham decided he did not like winning and just gave up first blood. He just doesn't know what Rel does under a tower, I guess. That was pretty ridiculous to look at. There's a wild fight up by the Grubs. It was 3-3 in total, that fight. Aurora did get 2 kills off of it, though, so you kind of felt a little better by it. 369 was destroying Kingan in this game. Really, both games, he just looked like the better top laner as the Cassante side of the Jax-Cassante matchup. Ended up being 3-3 in Grubs. But Jaculov was having a hard time this game on the Kalista. Yone was just killing him. It seems to be a theme that for some reason the AD carries have a lot harder time playing when Yone is in the game. Insane stuff, as always. But yeah, he was quite far behind in this game against the MF, as I recall. But then a good 4v1 dive by TES kills the Yone. That's a good way to get rid of him. And there was just a Drake sitting on the Rift for 13 minutes. It's a really slow dragon game, which was kind of weird, especially for this tournament. Yeah, DK has a massive team fight comp in the terms of wombo combo and just insta-killing a few people, and it really showed MF was very strong the whole game. And TS only had 2 relevant targets that DK had to go after, because if the carries were dead, there was just a bunch of big dudes looking at each other with 0 damage to offer. Jaculov had no items at 15 minutes. He was down 1,500 gold. It was pretty brutal to watch. I thought DK was going to win this game, to be honest. DK even stole the Herald, but Jaculov did get 2 kills in that fight, which is very important for him. Probably more important than that Herald, honestly. And then a 4-3 fight happens in TS's favor, plus getting the Infernal Dragon. But then all of a sudden, TS just loses top and jungle, and they just lose the Baron out of nowhere. It's still 14-16 in their favor at 25 minutes. But this was a great game from aiming on the Misfortune. He looked amazing. Later on, a Drake goes to TS. It was a pretty uneventful DK Baron. It was only an extra 1,000 gold gained after the initial influx of gold from killing it. So TS did pretty well. There was a 0-0 team fight that happened, but Aurora chunked out everyone on DK for half their health immediately, which was kind of wild to see. And then they kind of just looked at Baron, and everyone just walked away from each other. And then, yeah, 369 just absolute monster. 3-for-0 team fight down their support. And Kingen just didn't want to play in that fight at all. Baron goes to TES at 33.5 minutes. And then you just had to say TS just looked better in the team fights always. Their positioning, their macro, it always looked better. But that's what we expected going into the series. And then they aced them 5-0. GG, 2-0 sweep as I predicted. What can I say? Yeah, these were fun games. This game was nearly a kill a minute, almost 2 kills per minute at the beginning, I believe. This was some good quality League of Legends, but definitely you have to be concerned that DK just is running around and they aren't winning games against these better teams. The fluke allegations are going to be really real if they go another 0-2 series against anyone. So good luck to them. TS qualifies to the World Championships quarterfinals. Good for them. They deserve it. They looked amazing. And yeah, that's it for that series. So let's move on. I will preface this next series, Flycast versus HLE. Because I have a full-time job, sometimes I get busy and don't get to watch the games as much as I'd like to. So I have no notes on what actually happened in the games. I just watched the recaps when I could. So I'm kind of just going to spin this in a way that I can. I still understood what happened in the game. So obviously game 1, lots of crazy picks by Fly in this series, which I really like. They were losing game 1 pretty consistently up until they just started coming back and the fights just looked good and they kept winning and kept winning and kept winning until they didn't. And they lost one fight and that just ended the game. But I mean, the Amumu Casio was fun to watch. Masu was playing quite well. I mean, Viper was playing quite well as well. The Yone that they gave over to Zeka, by the way, really did not look that impressive. Only 1, 2, and 6 on that pick. Overall, an extremely, extremely close game that just Fly, they had been behind for so long that they really had lost the liberty of making mistakes by the time they lost that final team fight. And granted, they got 5-0'd kind of close to their base anyways. Most teams lose in that situation. But it just felt like the way they were playing in the second half of that game, if it had been even going into that, they would have won that game. And we could have been looking at a 2-0 here, which would have been crazy. But regardless, game 2, just an immense amount of targeted bans. Ivern, Cassiopeia, Amumu. Just a bunch of crazy stuff. Yeah, so let's get into it. The Olaf from Bwipo looked amazing in this game, which is wild. It was not as great early game. I mean, he was down 0-3 getting solo killed. It was really the late game that he pushed through, but can't clown him too much because they won the game in the end. The Peanut Zyro was interesting. So is the Zeka Yasuo and the Delight Poppy. I hate Poppy. Hate that champion. I think that champion sucks in all roles right now. I just don't think it's good at all. But obviously no one cares about those champs. We care about the Nunu and Willump. And Hui. Hui was cool as well. But come on, Nunu from Inspired. It looked okay. I mean, it was really funny when Doran just didn't know what Nunu did as a champion. He just didn't know what the E did and got rooted out of his teleport. But I don't know, it definitely just felt like it was good. But I don't think that's the reason they won this game. I think they just won off of great team fighting and slightly troll picks from HLE. I don't like the Yasuo in that game very much, or the Poppy. I think that's kind of gross. But yeah, this was an amazing game to watch if you're an NA fan. This gave you a lot of hope. They did look good. Fly looked amazing in this game. They looked coordinated. I mean, even in game 1, they never looked like they were getting crushed, which is very refreshing because normally when we play teams that are number 1 LCK, number 2 LCK, number 1 LPL, number 2 LPL, it's ugly and sad. And this wasn't ugly and sad. So, that's always nice. But yeah, FlyQuest eventually just win the game. They just kept winning fights over and over again. Bwipo was, 3v1ing people between 2 turrets on Olaf. The Hui looked great from Quad. Everyone all around, this was a great team game from Fly. It was really fun to watch. And I had a lot of hope that got ripped away from me going into game 3 when we picked Vi for some stupid reason. And Scion also just gross. The Viper Xayah looking good. The Skarner, I don't know. The last game was just so depressing. It really never felt like Fly were actually in it. It just felt like a good team playing a great team with no hope, which is honestly what I expected going into the series. So I'm happy they even won a game. It gives me a lot of confidence for Sunday because, obviously they're not out. But yeah, congrats to HLE. They qualified for the quarterfinals. Fly gave them a great series. It was fun to watch. And I'm happy to see it. I predicted 2-0 for HLE, but I would have been even more happy if Fly had won. Let it be known. But at least we'll take the pick being right, am I right? Tomorrow, obviously, G2 versus T1. I will not be as busy tomorrow. I know that for a fact. So I will have much more time to give better in-depth breakdowns based on what happened in the game rather than me just kind of spitballing opinions at you. But yeah, that was an inspiring performance from Fly. I'd love to see them. I mean, that gives you confidence that, like, hey, you know, maybe in a really good scenario, this team makes quarterfinals and can beat up on a DK if DK qualifies, on a LNG on an off day, a Weibo on an off day. You know, it's not unfathomable. They looked good. But in the end, they did lose. HLE qualifies. And yeah, happy to see people doing good in the end. I just got called on my phone. That was really cool. But yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow with breakdowns of the next two games. Let's hope G2 wins. And yeah, subscribe right now!